Hi, everyone. Okay, waiting for everyone to join in. Hey, Thea Sweet. What is this, Wednesday? Happy Wednesday. Hi. I have a very special live for you today. It's so special, we didn't even have time to promote it. I had a minute to put it up. I have a very special guest that's going to be speaking to us today. So, as you know, we've been talking about the four South Floridians that are on trial this week in Miami for the assassination of former President Jovnel Moise. And I have someone today that I'm excited to bring in. Let me see if I can read your comments. Let me see if she's on. If you are on, Tanya, send me a request. I don't see you yet. Let me try to send a request. Please share this live. Share this live. Let everyone know that we're on. I think a lot of our readers are from the comments and the DMs and stuff we've received, and even people asking, are we in court this week? I definitely think this is going to be a good conversation. Obviously, we've been talking about the trial online for years. This week specifically, and President Jovenel Moïse's wife, Martine Moïse, was on the stand today, and we were sharing some of the information that we were hearing about what's happening in court. But tonight, I get to bring you Tanya Francois from CBS 4 Miami, who was in court and have been in court the last 2 days, and she's going to answer all of our questions about what's been going on and especially what happened today. Let's see if we can get her on. I see. Oh, it's hi.
A little bit of technical difficulties, but we're here now.
It's okay. That's what Instagram Live is all about. So, welcome. Welcome.
Thank
So
you. Thank
happy to
you.
have you join us.
Happy to join. Happy to be here.
So I didn't do an official welcome yet and go into what we're talking about. I was waiting for you to join and get all of our followers to, yes, share this live. So I want to formally say welcome to Linear Suite Live because we share your stories all the time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
So, for the people that don't know, this is Tanya Francois. She is an award-winning journalist from CBS 4 Miami. We're always sharing her stories. She covered a lot of stories about, Haitians, TPS, what's happening in Haiti and in the U.S. She's in South Florida, so we get a lot of community stories with her as well. So this week, she is covering the trial, and I'm going to have her explain in details what the trial is because we've posted it, and a lot of people don't always read. So we saw the comments of people asking questions like, why is it in the US? Why is it not in Haiti? Why does anything that have to do with President Jovenel Moise not in Haiti? So first, welcome, Tanya.
Thank you very much.
And so our first question to you will pretty much be, if you can, just explain to everyone what's happening, what this trial is about, and why it's in Miami.
Okay, so their trial officially began yesterday, but they started with jury selection on Monday. So the way the United States works, trials begin when opening statements begin, which was yesterday. The trial is here in the U.S. is because they believe the four people who are on trial that they mastermind and came up with the plan here in the U.S. They did everything in the U.S. and then went to Haiti to carry out the plan. So that's why they are on trial. It's technically five people involved, but only four are on trial. The last guy, Sona, I don't remember his first name right now,
Mhm.
he is ill. And so, because of health reasons, he is not on trial. So, the four individuals, they are on trial. And It's like four separate trials in one. So each of them have their own attorney, and they each get to go at this, right after the other, as if it's four separate trials in one. Is how the federal government is doing it.
Did they explain the reason for that?
Um, they didn't really explain it, except that customary with U.S. They sort of did it together.
Mhm.
So they that's why they just sort of all, so you don't have to go through this four different times.
Mhm.
Each one helped the other, if that makes sense, is what the government is trying to prove and accuse them of working together. So since they
Mhm.
work together, everything happened together. The testimony, the evidence, everything comes out together. So it just makes sense in the interest of time to do them together.
'Cause so I believe the other guy name is Emmanuel Sanin or something like that.
Sona is
So
how they've been pronouncing it in court, but you may know
yeah,
better than me. Yeah,
I think that might be it.
he's the
Um,
doctor. I believe he's the doctor.
yes. So what does that mean now? That doesn't mean he's off the hook, right? Because he's
Oh,
sick.
absolutely not. He's in prison, awaiting trial, and he will have his own hearing or court case. Once his health improves.
Okay, so I mean, I would hope everyone knows, but before we go into what's being discussed, do you want to kind of explain like what the case is? Tutai sin lam kwenu kone case la, but I'm gonna have her still explain the
Right.
case.
So it's the assassination of Jovel Moise, right? So it's essentially, these, what during opening arguments, what was explained. So first, I'm a journalist, so I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just going to explain this is what happened in court. I don't know a lot of background on the case. Of course, I lived it in real time, right? But I don't really know the nuances. So I'm only can explain what's happened in court. So during the opening arguments, what's explained is that these four people, the four gentlemen, I think one owned the Doral. The company's in Doral. It's some type of like security firm in Doral, and the other three worked together. And I believe it was Doctor. I'll call him Doctor Sona for lack of being able to say it. That's how they said it in
Yeah.
court. That he went to this security firm asking for help, saying he again. This is how they explained it in opening statement. So opening statement isn't exactly law. It's them explaining to the jurors this is what's happening. So they explained that Dr. Sanan went to them saying, listen, I'm about to go to Haiti. I need to run for president. I have this warrant, for an arrest for the Haitian president, and I need help removing him so that I can then become president. So he goes to the security team. I think one of them is Colombian. They explain one of them. They explain where each of them is in their backgrounds. I don't recall, but I do have notes on them. And together, essentially over the course of a few months, they conspire together and they fly to Haiti several times back and forth. They smuggle in, ammunition, vests, all kinds of things into Haiti. And they use the word smuggling. The government did in their opening statements. And that's how they were able to get, everything over to Haiti to eventually, because they said they did like 3 or 4 times. They had these several attempts before they were actually able to, if they are the ones found guilty, because it's alleged, this is what they're accused of, being the ones to carry out the murder. We don't know if they did it or not. No one has pled guilty in terms of these four gentlemen.
So if you're still joining us, so we are here talking to Tanya Francois from CBS for Miami. She has been in court the last 3 days, 2 days,
Technically 3 days. It
three
began
days. Okay.
Monday with jury
Yeah.
selection. I've only missed like 20 minutes of court so that I could go beyond TV to bring this to CBS, but I've been in court the entire time, gavel to gavel.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you. So she's been in court the last 3 days, and the case that she is sitting in for is there's four. So just so you know, I keep seeing people saying, "Why the U.S.?" There are four South Floridian men that are on trial right now for the assassination of President Jovenel Moise. So they are trialing him here in South Florida. Because of that, there's actually five, but one is not there this week. How long? So you're 3 days in. How long did they say this is going to be? How long is the
eight
trial?
8 to 10 weeks, a very long time. And they prepared
Mm.
the jury for that. So during jury selection, that came up, and they asked the potential jurors if that length of time would be an issue. They had over 100, approximately about 120 potential jurors that they had to go through before securing a total of 16, 12 jurors and four alternates.
Wow. Okay, so we're in day three. Not a lot has happened. So, guys, if this is something that you are interested in and you like that we're doing this live, we can continue to do these for the next couple of weeks with Tanya. So if you're watching right now, please comment in the section whether or not this is something you want to see us keep doing, and we'll make sure we schedule them out for everyone.
So just a
So,
note, I won't be
mm.
in court every day because I can't be in court every
Yeah,
day for
I was
eight
gonna
to
say
ten
not. No,
weeks.
no, no. We're not saying all 10 weeks.
And
The
right,
times that you're there,
absolutely,
and we can get you. You get an
right,
hour or so of your time. We want y'all to comment
no problem.
yes or no. Do you want us to keep doing this? And if I can make it to court too, guys, I will be going. I'm really sad I couldn't go today, but
Mhm.
this is why we have amazing partners like Tanya. So my next question is from a lot of things that I mean, the case is already viral, but from yesterday to today, President Jovenel's wife, Martine Moise, was in court yesterday. She started yesterday. She sat in for, I guess, all 8 hours today. It's viral. The pictures of her walking in the court is viral. Her
That's me.
crying. I
I,
saw,
I
yes,
shot
that's your
those.
video. Those pictures are viral. The biggest viral headline is the fact that she broke down on the stands crying, which obviously we all kind of were expecting that. So can you talk to us about one, why did she go first? Do you know why she's first? And what happened with yesterday? And then we can also go into, her testimony today.
Right. So they're calling her a star witness. So that's why she went today, right? Because she was there. She's the only person who was, other than the killer, who was in the room, when her husband was unfortunately assassinated. So that's why she went first, likely. And so what happened yesterday was opening statements, right? So first the government goes and they present their case to the jurors, and then remember there are four defendants. Only three of them went. I don't know why the fourth one didn't do an opening, but they don't have to do an opening. That's their choice. So they did opening. And then for like maybe the last hour, a little bit less than the last hour, she began her opening testimony, and then she continued again today. So literally yesterday, as you said, like the way it went, what's your name? Martine Moise. Who are you? I was the former first lady of Haiti. Who was your husband? After that question, literally minutes into it, she completely broke down from that point. She apologized. She's very, stately. You know what I mean? She's very formal in even the way she presented. The other interesting thing is, and the attorneys brought this up a lot of times today, is the entire thing was in Creole. She had two translators with her, although we know she speaks English, and she testified that she went to school to be a translator to speak, and she speaks English well. We've seen interviews with her where she speaks English. She said the entire thing was in Creole, so it's good because I speak Creole, so I got to hear it
Yeah.
twice to really be able to get an understanding of what she was saying, and so she was able to also in that vein, she says the reason why she wanted it in Creole because Creole is her first language, and so some of the legal terms she may not understand, and so it was good that she was, just so to make sure that she didn't miss anything, and she, repeatedly said and said off the top what she wants is truth and justice for her husband, and that she's waited a very long time for this moment so that she can begin the process of seeking truth and justice for her husband.
Wow. And from so yesterday, like you said, they just went into introduction, just kind of talking about, who she is. During you said three of them went and the fourth person didn't go. So were any of the other able to ask any other questions from there, or today was the day they went into question about what happened?
Today was the day.
Okay, so
They
yes,
today so just to explain, the prosecution goes first, right? So the government goes first, and she's their witness. So she's basically it's when you are the person's witness, it's a softball, right?
yeah.
We want to like you, so they're introducing her, they're allowing her to testify, and then she was cross-examined. So this is when the defense gets to question her, and that happened, and she was questioned four different times because each attorney gets to ask her questions, and that was very tense.
Were they asking her the same questions over and over, or each?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Definitely not the same questions, but like each person has a different angle, and so you can tell like one was like sort of like, okay, explain to me this a little bit more. Okay, so from I know you covered, what happened, like the questioning began from July 6th, right? 10 p.m. or what you did July 6th, the day before. We know the assassination happened on July 7th. So the questioning from the government began with July 6th. Well, one of the attorneys said, well, what happened before July 6th? Tell me about your day, because
Got
you
it.
never got into that. So they sort of
Got
fed
it.
off of each other, but some
Hmm.
asked for clarity, some asked, explain this a little bit more. Some things she repeated, some
Yeah.
things she repeated differently. She said it one way yesterday and then answered a fully different way today. So there were a lot of inconsistencies in her
Mm.
testimony that were
Well,
easy to see.
well, let's go into the testimony. So, from the sixth to the, what was some of the things that she said? Well, in her own words, what did she say happened on the seventh?
So I'll take you through a timeline of how she
Okay.
describes what happens. So she said
Yes.
she went to bed at 10 p.m. and she basically puts her phones down on the bed. She says at 1 o'clock in the morning, she woke up. When she went to bed, her husband was not in bed with her. At 1 o'clock in the morning, when she woke up, they were both in bed together. She said she woke up to the sounds of gunfire. And she was shocked because she wasn't sure about what happened. She says her husband woke up and immediately looks to her and says, Chérie, na mouri jodi. And so that alarmed her. And so she immediately said, because the gunfire never stopped. She says the gunfire was rapid. If she actually does the noise, she's nonstop. It was just bullets flying through the house the entire time. And she said she immediately got down on sukat, li descend cabane na, li descend escalier, la li na chambre petite fille. I'm sorry, let me go in English. When she enters her daughter's room,
We understand both here. It's
sorry,
okay. Yeah.
sorry. English is my first language, so let me stick to English. When she enters her daughter's room, the door is open, the daughter's not in there, and then she goes into the her son's room, and the daughter's in the son's room. So she says she tells both of them they take the dog and one dog and they go into the bathroom, and she tells them to and then close the door. She said she went into the kids' room because she knew the kids would come up to her room, and she did not want the kids to come up. She wanted them to stay down. And then she says on all fours, she goes back up to the room and she calls him Joe. She finds Joe laying on the floor. And Joe tells her to lay on the floor on the other side of the bed. And I actually look for it. They show the bed. They show the bedroom. They show multiple pictures of the bedroom with the blood on it. So she says after they're both laying down, the whole thing took place for 45 minutes. So they're laying there for approximately 30 minutes. And then she keeps hearing the gunfire, At some point when the gunfire first started, he called the three people for help. So they're waiting for help to come. She explained that there's about 30 to 50 security surrounding the house. And she's sort of, thinking, wondering, hoping that, she can't tell if they're firing back, if it's both. She has no idea. So as when she is laying down on the floor, eventually, and again, this is in her words, I'm explaining what she says. She says she hears a boom, and that's the door opening. She's lying on her belly. She says she never went fully underneath the bed because she could not fit under the bed. And I know that was a point of contention that went back and forth. She says her shoulder and her head were under the bed, and she could see her husband from underneath the bed as well. And she says, as soon as she hears the boom, almost immediately, she hears the gunfire, and she can feel her body going up and down, convulsing as she's being shot. And she says, yesterday, she said she was shot twice. Today, she says she was shot multiple times. And then she says they go over to her husband, and I think she says they try to question him, or they start to ask him questions. And then she says, there's gunfire. Um, it's kind of a little bit hard to understand what happens next with him. And then she says, they shoot him. They try to keep asking him a question. He's not really responding. He's not really talking. And then they shoot him again. And she says she's afraid that her husband is dead. So at one point, she tries to lift an arm or a hand so he can see that there are signs of life, that she is still alive. And she can see that he sort of comes alive a little bit. But then after that, he does eventually succumb. And he, unfortunately, he dies in the room. And she says she's just laying there. And then she can hear, the ransacking of the room, and she can hear two people speaking Spanish. One is named Pepe and one is named Jefe. I think one means chief in Spanish. And she explains that she speaks Spanish, so one of them means chief in Spanish. And they keep saying, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it. And then they say, that's it. And then they come back to her. She says, yo pile piel. So les ouais que son boîte qui monsieur a updaté, and then
Hold,
he
because I think I'm even getting lost. Okay, so just so I'm clear, or maybe I heard it wrong. So is she saying she was shot before he was shot?
she was shot first.
Okay, because
She's
I'm
saying
hearing
she
she says she was shot and then she
first.
looked over and so they shot at her first.
First. She's very adamant, and they do go over that a lot in court. She was shot first. Immediately after they go into the room, she's shot.
So they shoot her first and then they went and spoke to him before shooting him. Where are the kids when this is happening?
Kids are downstairs. They're
Downstairs in the
in the
bathroom.
bathroom. That's the
Okay.
only bedroom without a window, and that's why
Okay.
she made them go in the back. That's the only room in the entire house without a window.
Okay, so she secured the children, went back to her husband. She shot when, and so I'm guessing he couldn't do anything when she was shot. They questioned
They're asking him questions.
questions,
He's
and
not
then
really answering, is
okay,
what I gather from the testimony. Not
okay,
really, and they don't spend a lot of time on that part at
okay,
all. But he's not really answering, and then they shoot him again. And she says it's like it sounds like it's a rifle and it's in short distance. So he's mutilating. She actually says she could see. Well, I want to go into. I'll go in order. If
yeah.
you want to ask another a
Yeah,
question.
yeah, I was gonna ask next. So then, now that he's shot, I'm assuming she's just playing dead, right? Like,
Exactly what she says. She says she
okay,
plays dead on the floor. She doesn't move. And then the guys, step on her, grab her by the foot, rolls her over. She's playing dead. And at one point, one of the attorneys even questions, like, how much do you weigh? She says 20 pounds. So 200 pounds,
no,
excuse me,
oh,
200 pounds is what she says that she weighs. And so she says they grab her by the leg and they roll her over. They take a flashlight. She says her eyes are closed. She never opens her eyes at all. She says when she rolls over, blood comes out of her mouth, blood comes out of her nose. And she says they roll her over. They do a flashlight on her face. Even though her eyes are closed, she can feel the light. And then they leave her there.
so she never even saw any of the men that was in the
She
room. She
never,
just
her eyes were never open. She said the entire time her eyes were closed.
wow. And so I guess like from there, so then they ask her these questions. What is the next
They
phase
asked
of
him.
question?
They never asked her anything. They only
No,
asked him.
no, I was saying during the trial. So now they're going through the questioning. So they go over what happened. What is the next,
What happens next?
type of questions they go into now?
So I'll go into the timeline because she
Yes.
explains more that happens. So
Okay.
after they roll her over, right, and they check her eyes, and then they begin, looking for whatever this paperwork, and they're saying that's not it, that's not it, that's not it, and then they finally say that's it, and then they leave, and there's silence. There's quiet. There's nothing after that. And then she said she could hear, she could hear the ransacking of the house, right? And then afterwards, there's silence. There's quiet. She said the entire time she's waiting on the people who he called. She says the names, but unfortunately, I don't remember the names of the three people. I do have
Yeah.
notes on them, but I'm not familiar with the names, so I didn't retain that. And she says she's still waiting on the people who her husband called to come. I think Leon Charles is one of them. Dimitri guy is one of them. I don't remember the third person's name exactly. But she's waiting on them to show up. They never show up. So she gets up and she scoops herself. She actually says, sou derrière, râler comme. She says, excusez-moi parce que me dit derrière, mais c'est comme ça m'oblige râler comme, moi bois pas qu'à move, pas qu'à camper. So râler comme, c'est là ça moi Joe. She always calls him Joe. Moi Joe, moi grand gel qui sorti dans figure, so me connaît là ça li mourir. She says, at that moment, the gardener and the chef, the housekeeper, the maid of the house, ils disent, là ça, demoun sa yo vini, en dan chamna, and she begins to ask for help. She tells him to go get a tie from her husband, and he ties her arm. She says because she's beginning to feel very weak, and so he ties the arm with a tie, and then she says, "Les pensées, c'est les mêmes seuls who survives." And that she thinks her kids are dead, her husband's dead. She says, "Les mains de bon Dieu, pour qui ça, c'est moi seul qui survive, attaque là, pour qui ça." And then she says, "Mains de bon Dieu, pardon," because she knows she's not supposed to question God. And then that's when the kids come into the room as well. And she says she realizes that her kids actually survived, and the housekeeper and the gardener, they were downstairs in another part of the house that they come in, and they carry her downstairs. She gets in a car, she goes into the hospital, and then she tells me the name of the hospital. She says uh,
So
the hospital in Pétionville.
what time did they talk about what time the attack happened to the time she went to the hospital?
They didn't say what time they went to the hospital, but they emphasized heavily that the whole thing was like 45 minutes. She says the whole thing took about 45 minutes.
What time of the night? Like
1 a.m. is when it started. So this is about
1 a.m.
1:45 is when it ends.
Okay. So no, go ahead. So you said you're going down the timeline of
So
yeah.
then she goes to the hospital, and from the hospital, she's transferred to Jackson Memorial Hospital, and that's when she has multiple surgeries. In between her surgery and recovery, she eventually flies back to Haiti for enterrement, and that's the first time she goes back into the house to pick up a suit for her husband to wear. The house is shot up. She says all of his suits basically had bullet holes in them, and so she has a hard time trying to find a suit that doesn't have a hole in it. And she does find one, and then she has the service, and then she has to fly back to Jackson because she has to have more surgeries for her arm.
So did she talk about like after leaving Haiti or being able to come back, did she have any, allies or people that was with her, or she was just doing all this stuff by her, just her and her kids?
She doesn't say. She doesn't address
Okay.
that.
Okay. So today, like that was the timeline of questions that they went through. So we obviously know there was a lot of other bombshell things that,
A lot.
that she said, because that's a big thing that's trending right now. Like who she feel like is involved and things like that. Can you talk
Right.
about a little of that?
Absolutely. So that came in the cross examination. So the attorney for one of the men, I can't remember his name, but the attorney's name is David Howard. So David Howard was very, very, I'm going to use the word strong in his cross examination. And so she asks him, who do you think, or who, she asked, I think the question was posed, do you believe, Michelle Martelly had something to do with it? And she says yes, because the security detail that is in place is the security detail that he put in place. And then she also implicates Ariel Henry. She says she actually went to Haiti with her attorneys, and she filed a cause. I don't know the proper terminology for Haitian investigations, but she basically says that she wants Ariel Henry investigated because she feels like he is also complicit in her husband's death. And then she went on to say, again, three different lawyers are asking her questions. So this is what she is saying in the answering of the questions to answer your question. She says the oligarchs, they ask her about the oligarchs. And she says, yes, I believe some of the oligarchs may have had something to do with his murder, because her husband had recently, or in the last 2 years, had canceled the contract for gas for them. And so they were very, very upset. There's a man who owns a Nissan dealership. Again, I don't remember his name, but she was asked about his involvement. And she says she also believes he may be involved in her husband's murder again. So she names a lot of people who had an ought. She also explains that there were a lot of assassination attempts, a lot of coup attempts. Some of them I think we know about, and some of them we don't. She mentions
Mhm.
very heavily about a February 7th attempt before the actual murder attempt that took place. She said if the February 7th attempt, which I believe was a coup d'etat, if that would have been successful, she says the July 7th
July.
would not have happened. So she blames the July 7th attack, or her murder, on the failed February 7th attack. She says, she knew her husband, that people were trying to kill her husband, or in trying to take over the government. There were many. There was a trip to Turkey, and this was brought up even by the prosecutors, that the four men that are on our trial, they are accused
Mhm.
of, and I need to make sure I say this is what they're accused of, because it came out in opening statements that they had gotten an airplane, and when he came back from Turkey, when President Moise came back from Turkey, that they were going to try to get him to literally not even leave the airport. They were going to try to get him to surrender and use the arrest warrant to get him to get on their plane and leave Haiti and go, seek asylum somewhere. But they had hired Bundy that never showed up. And so a lot of these were failed because they simply didn't have the manpower, which is why, again, I want to qualify what I'm saying because
Yes.
I'm a journalist. I need to qualify. This is what came out in opening statements. This is what the government explained to the jury as to the cause of why these 4 men are on trial. They said after these failed attempts, because they couldn't get the Bundys to cooperate, they would never show up. This is when they hired the 20 Colombians, because one of the guys used to be in the Colombian army. So he basically called his friends a bunch of ex-Colombians. And that's what, even in the opening statements, one of the attorneys for the men, again, because their whole point is to raise reasonable doubt, right? That's their mission, their purpose for the trial of the defendants is to raise reasonable doubt. So
Yeah.
in their opening arguments, they blame the U.S. government, they blame her, they blame a list of people, who are responsible. They believe someone else orchestrated, even if it's the involvement of these gentlemen, to be able to do this.
So if the goal is to raise reasonable doubt to get these four guys off, and she's also naming people that she believes, were responsible, and not really mentioning or maybe naming these four, can't this possibly help the four guys case? Like,
It depends. As a journalist, again, I can't
yeah,
have an opinion, right? And you're
right.
asking me to have an opinion, so I really can't formulate an opinion on that. What I can say is, the point of the trial, right? The point of the Justice Department, who brings the trial, is to prove that these men had something to do with
Didn't
her
do.
husband's murder. The point of the defense is to prove that these men did not
Didn't.
have something to do with the husband's murder, right?
Yeah.
So it this is only day 3 of 8 to 10 weeks. So more
Mhm.
testimony, will come. And I imagine, those details will eventually work themselves out, this whole reasonable doubt thing. But, to what you're saying, the point is, to prove that these 4 men were involved in the assassination of President Jovenel Moise. And if you're saying other people did it,
Then these four men possibly didn't do it.
you
Okay.
said it, I didn't.
No, I'm just reading, like, if that's the case, then no, you didn't say it, you're right. But I'm just calculating, well, if you're saying it's not, if it's other people, then it may
They're
not be these
saying,
people. They're saying it's not.
well, if Martin Moise on the witness stand, implicates other people's involvement.
Yes. No, totally got it. So today she was on the stands for like 8 hours, and it was
The
really like
entire day. I can tell
just
you,
breaking down.
yes,
Another thing that I also wanted to say, since we are talking about reasonable doubt and implications, another thing that's obviously been talked about and it's all over the media is the possibility of there being an investigation against her. And she's always said, even when she does her tweets and her messages, I think she used to do them every month, I think on the
she
7th or
does.
something,
That
she
came
would
up in
talk
court.
about how they were trying to implicate her, and that's why she's under investigation. Did they talk about that?
Absolutely. And actually, that's how the question of the oligarchs came in, because she says they asked her, she says every 7th of the month,
Yes.
in honor of her husband, she does put a
Yes.
tweet. She does go on
Yes.
X and she tweets, and she says, and she says that is where she has implicated all of these people publicly. So it's not a secret what she's done. And she says, uh, she's, tell me your question again. I'm sorry, I just
N-
lost track.
No, I said she's always mentioned the fact that this, like implicating all these other people, and talking about the fact that
That's
she's
right.
also under
Herself.
investigation.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So the attorneys, and I'll tell you, the attorneys actually had to sidebar. So David Howard, again, he actually had to ask the judge, I want to ask her about her investigation. And the attorneys for the judge, the attorneys for the state were like, no, we don't want that to come up. But he argued that it needs to come out, and just because she said it and it's happening, she is under investigation. Why not? So the judge actually sided with the defense, and she allowed that line of questioning. So Attorney David Howard asked her directly and said, "Are you not under investigation for your husband's murder yourself?" And she answered, "Yes, I am under investigation." And she went into great detail. She explained that not only am I under investigation, she says, I'm under investigation because the very people who killed him are the ones currently investigating me. So they want to frame me for doing it so that the heat takes off of them. And she says, She says, I refuse to cooperate. That's why I refuse to go to Haiti. I refuse to comply because I know the moment I step foot in Haiti, I will die. She says, they want to kill me. I was supposed to die that night and I did not. So I refuse to go to Haiti. She says she has asked, can she testify via Zoom? Can she testify in any other country in the world? But she says she will not testify in Haiti, and the judge only wants her to come to Haiti. She refuses, and that's why it's sort of stalled a little bit. But she explained that yes, she's under investigation, but she says again, it's because the people who are in power currently are the very people who are now investigating her.
Okay. And today, she was the only person on stand, but
No, she
um,
was not.
so there was.
Her daughter took the stand in like the
Okay.
last 20 to 30 minutes. So in that window, I was
Mm.
outside getting ready for my story. So I missed the opening of her testimony, but she gets back on the stand tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, so the first day and a half was Martine Moise. Tomorrow is going to be her daughter, that was also in the house that night. That she said she pretty much put her children in the bathroom to shield them from everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've for someone like, I feel like for us that wasn't there, you pretty much kind of covered everything, because a lot of people know, like, so you can't watch it live. I see people asking, can
Cannot.
you watch it live?
You cannot.
It's not live. You can't watch the case live. So you really are going to have to follow journalists like Tanya. Like I said, she was there for CBS for Miami. We also cover what we can from
Hmm.
it. If we go in, we can do more. If we don't, then we depend on people like Tanya and
So,
other
and
journalists and with all the other media platforms that's
hmm
posting it.
hmm
That's the only way for you to pretty much cover,
and
well,
I
to
and
know
I
what's happening.
And
Mhm.
I do want to explain that a little bit. Everybody knows about the Diddy trial and how the Diddy trial was in federal court, right? And we never saw video, we never saw anything, right, come out of the Diddy
Mhm.
trial. And so, similarly, with federal court, phones are not even allowed inside at all. The only
Yeah.
reason why I'm allowed to have a phone inside is because I'm a journalist. So we had to, like, at the beginning of the year, fill out special paperwork. My station had to fill out special paperwork. So I'm allowed to bring my laptop and my phone. Otherwise, no, like phones are not allowed, cameras are not allowed, pictures are not allowed, nothing. There's,
Yeah.
I can tweet, I can, my words.
Yeah.
And I just want to make a note. The easy thing, if there is such a thing about her testimony, is that because it was in Creole and it was being translated to English, you got to hear it twice.
Yeah.
That's why it went even longer, because you're literally, everything's having to be repeated. So that
Yeah.
really helped with understanding and really getting a nuance for what was going on. Because if you understand Creole, you can hear her say it in Creole and then you hear them say it again in English.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So you got the double dose of it. If you miss something, you're able to get it again. So
So if you are a blogger or if you are a journalist and you haven't filled out that form, even if you go to court, you cannot live tweet, you cannot live
yeah.
post, because they will take your phone at the very entrance before you even can get in. They're taking your phone.
Yes. So if you're listening, like she just said, you can't go in there and start recording and putting things on social media. So, like I said, this is one of our ways of being able to get the information too, from journalists like Tanya that is in court, that's able to do this. So, like I said, if this is what you guys, if you guys are interested in hearing more of the case this way, we're happy to do it. When she's able, to be in the courthouse. Otherwise, we will keep updating everyone on the case. So, just to be clear, tonight was not about us having a conversation. It wasn't about our opinions, what we think, or what's going on. It was literally just her explaining, this is the trial, this is what's happening, this is why it's happening in Miami, in the US, and not Haiti. These are the four gentlemen that's on trial right now. The fifth one is not there. And Miss Moise was on the stand yesterday, today, and her daughter will be on. We just wanted to come and share the information so you have it directly from someone that was in the courthouse. And like we say, we'll keep on updating you on the case for the next 8 to 10 weeks.
Can I say one more thing? So tomorrow
Yes.
morning, I know that the daughter will take the stand. So I will be there tomorrow morning for the daughter to take the stand. But I do have
Mhm.
other work that I need to do.
Yes.
So I don't think I'm going to stay. I think after that, they said a doctor is supposed to take the stand, and
Mhm.
then they're mixing up the order. Um,
Yeah.
I can say I have asked directly, and Michelle Martelly is a witness for the defense. So he is on the witness list. Whether or not he actually gets called and testifies is questionable. I will
Hmm.
be there if he does. So I'm not
Okay.
going to be there every day because it's going to get boring, right? It just is. And I have other work. I do other work for CBS Miami. Um,
Understood.
but I just want to go through, the timeline of the importance of the people. And I do want to say the autopsy photos I'm told will be shown. I did see like an X-ray. I wasn't supposed to see it, but I saw, the X-ray of President Moise. So some of the pictures are pretty graphic. That I was forewarned that a lot of the evidence is very graphic, and there is a lot of evidence, I was told, in this case. So some of it is going to be hard, but again, it's open to the public. But just know, if you come in, you can't have any device.
And then just take your pictures and videos. So
Not
thank
gonna
you
happen.
so much, Tanya.
Awesome.
Thank you for being taking those 8 hours for all the rest of us that couldn't be there. And everybody else that joined in tonight, thank you for joining. Thank you for your comments and some of your questions that I saw below. We will also be, we're going to be posting this on Instagram so you can go back to watch it if you missed it. So it'll sit on Instagram and also on Facebook, YouTube, and other places for you guys to watch it if you missed anything. And if you need any additional information, like I said, we'll keep on. We're going to be updating this story for the next, couple of weeks. So thank you again. Thank you, Tanya. We're looking forward to doing another live with you like this again soon.
I'm here.
Thank you guys. Good night.